in communication with Southern California, KHJ-TV Public Affairs presents Teen Talk. Modern science has totally upset the myth that one race is biologically superior to another. Since 1900, the number of blacks attending college has increased fivefold to over 1.1 million. Most prejudiced people live in economically and academically deprived areas. Among adults and adolescents, prejudice has been found to be significantly influenced by friendship patterns.
There appear to be numerous predictable causes for prejudice. Ignorance or a poor set of values taught in the home, hanging around with prejudiced friends, and sometimes the unexplained fear of somebody different than yourself. It's somewhat like the Rodgers and Hammerstein song, "You've got to be carefully taught to hate people of other races, religions, and backgrounds." Hi, I'm Joe Feinstein, and today on Teen Talk, we've invited a panel of young people to delve into a problem we've never been able to fully resolve in these United States: race relations. Welcome, panel. Welcome to Teen Talk. There's a theory which suggests that among high school students, those failing to compete successfully for grades, friends, admission to college, and other hazards may find themselves beset with anxiety as self-blame to the point where they seek excuses for their failures. Then they turn to easily identifiable groups such as Chicanos, blacks, Asians, Jews, or other whites as the likely cause for their failures. Have you seen or felt such animosity by anyone?
Teen Talk on race relations. A discussion with host Joe Feinstein and several teenagers on the subject of race relations.
College advisement office, and they'll try and get into a certain college, and they can't get in there because of their feelings about their racism.
Mm-hmm. Leah, have you seen that?
Well, I think that it's pretty human to make a mistake, to make mistakes. And it's like even more human to blame it on somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
When you're really frustrated and you're having problems or you just don't have your life together, you're probably going to lash out at the nearest difference you can find from anybody.
It's always seeking a person or a group, a whole group, to find the excuse. What personal glimpses have you people seen or experienced regarding prejudice? Who's seen something like that? Jeff, have you come across that at all?
Well, out of school.
Out of school?
In school also.
Mm-hmm.
But also around my friends at school, we noticed about displays in schools. Of course, the school is predominantly white, but however, they have to realize that there are some blacks and Asians also at the school. However, they still continue to keep whites on the billboards and advertise them as the only spirited people on campus.
What have you done about it?
We complain, but I guess teachers just let them go on and do as they will.
Well, you've complained, and did the authorities kind of look into the matter? Are they looking into the matter?
I really don't know. Maybe I haven't complained enough.
Maybe you haven't complained loudly enough. Okay, all right. And what about you, Greg? Have you seen anything like this?
No, not really. I haven't really seen much. I mean, you see a little bit of it, but you don't see really a lot where you're really affected by it.
Give me an example of where you see even a little of it.
Well, for instance, when you're walking down a hallway, going to your locker or going to a class, you always tend to see a black person or a white person always maybe trying to pick a fight or yelling or...
What do you do when you experience that the black person or the white person is starting a fight? What do you do?
I do nothing. I just ignore it.
There's no cool it or cut it out, you guys?
Well, I mean, there's so much I can say. If it was one of my friends, you know, I would, of course, I'd say something. But otherwise, I would just let it go at that.
Well, you see, I think that a lot of the problem is the fact that we like to turn our, away from these things, and we pretend that they don't exist. Another form of denial, in a sense. What about you, Larita? What?
Well, it's at my school because we're having a yearbook sale, and most of the yearbook sale is on the white people. You don't hardly see any blacks or Mexicans in there. And the guy who's taking the picture is white, you know, and he's taking all these pictures of all his friends. So if you turn the page is on more of his friends, and you see the people constantly. And we get tired of seeing it because it happens every year, and then they want us to pay $20 for a yearbook, which is just on their friends, you know, none of our friends. And then now the sophomores are called followers, and we're followers behind seniors and stuff like that. And some of them don't even like us being there, you know. And if you're a magnet student or something, and if you're black, they'll try their best to give you all these classes. So if you fail, they make sure they get you out of that school. But other than that,
wow. Max, have you seen any of this experienced at your school?
Yeah, my school's fairly integrated. It's got a large percentage of minorities. The white population isn't that high, and but even so, there's no like a group of whites, like the yearbook isn't all white people or something like that. But still, if you look, like you were saying, walking down the halls, you'll see a white person walking with a white person, or a black person walking with a black person, or, you know, an Asian person walking with an Asian person. Not all the time, but most of the time, people tend to hang around with their own racial group. And I guess partially it could be because, you know, they've got a common heritage and stuff. But I think a lot of it is just they're so used, even if there's no open prejudice, they're in an environment which has had prejudice for so long that it's just expected that you'll hang around with your own people, that you won't go and talk to somebody who's not your type, you know, or something like that.
My mother used to tell me how liberal, understanding, and accepting she was, but all of her behavior seemed to negate what she was saying. Do you agree with your parents, or are they different? In other words, are your parents really prejudiced, or are they really quite liberal and understanding about other races and religions? Jeff, how do you feel about that?
Yes, I kind of disagree with my mother. I think she is a little racial prejudice, excuse me. But, because I can tell on TV when she noticed something, she disagrees automatically, and she noticed that, and I noticed it too. And
give me for instance, what are you talking about?
say like on TV, especially when Mayor Tom Bradley wasn't elected for governor.
Yeah.
She was really uptight. She was kind of tense.
It was because the blacks did not. The whites did not want him. Is that what you're saying?
True. So she really got upset, and just because some whites probably hidden a ballot or held back something, because she really thought he was going to win.
Yes, I did too, as a matter of fact. Paula, what about you? Are Mom and Dad truly understanding?
They're understanding when it comes to me, but their own personal feelings, I think they are a bit prejudiced. My mother, she tends to agree more with me when I tell her how I feel about certain things.
My mother used to give all kinds of negative terms to the black people that worked for us, cleaning the windows or cleaning our home. And she had all kinds of disparaging remarks about them when they left and when they were returning for the following week. But while they were there, it was all, you know, pats on the back and all that sort of stuff. And I really could sense the hypocrisy and the mendacity, which is the lies that she was really, you know, that because I knew her. I mean, I loved her very much and I accepted that, but it took me a while to realize for myself that her behavior and her posture was not something that I admired, nor was it something I was going to continue in my own life. We have to kind of undo a lot of what we experience. Tim, you said that your grandpa?
Yeah, I feel that my grandparents are more prejudiced than my mother, say. I feel everybody's a little bit prejudiced.
How do you figure that? Why does that happen for you, do you think?
I don't know, it's just, you know, people have their differences, and people are afraid of other people's differences, so they...
How does Grandma show this?
Well, she doesn't really show it. I mean, she does in a way, but not outwardly so.
Okay. What about it, Leah? What happens in your home?
Well, I feel kind of fortunate because my mother's real cool and my dad's real cool. They like, I haven't been raised around a lot of prejudice because I'm half black and half Japanese, and it's like with that
That's quite a combination.
with that combination, you really can't be prejudiced
Really?
because there's two extremes right there. So I have a lot of tolerance of people of other religions, other racial groups, and it's good because you have to think about it. Once it comes down to it, everybody's human. I mean, there's no two ways about it.
Well, we know that intellectually. I'm not talking about it that way right now. I'm talking about it affectively, when it comes from within the heart and the feelings. Max, does it happen in your home?
In a way, my mom, I live with my mom, she's hardly prejudiced at all, and not at all that I can notice. She seems even less prejudiced than I am. But like my grandparents, my grandmother, all her side of the family are Victorian sort of, they're upper middle class, and they're all educated in real fancy schools, and they all consider themselves very high socially. And every now and then an aunt will drop by, and we'll go over to visit, and you'll be talking with them, and they'll be really nice and really interesting, and they've been off doing fun things, and all of a sudden they'll mention something. They'll just make some comment about blacks or something, without even thinking about it. It's like, to them it's a matter of course that they're inferior or something, and it's so shocking because in all other ways they seem like they know it goes along with what you're saying of coming from the heart. Intellectually, they seem like a person who would never think that.
They'll hold a flag in one hand, and then they'll tell you about someone that Jewed someone down, or something about those blacks and how bad news they are, and they're waving the flag with the right hand, and it's awful to feel. Insofar as those Mexicans are taking all the jobs away as they wave the flag, that kind of thing. Did you face that, Todd?
Well, I find a lot, because I work a lot over at a bowling alley, and I find a lot of the senior citizens over at this bowling alley seem to put down all the races. Like I have a couple, my parents have some friends, and they're always saying that the Negroes are always doing something wrong, or the Mexicans are always doing something wrong. And I think it's the elderly race that seems to be more prejudiced, and they reflect it on us while we're trying to stop being so prejudiced.
Mm-hmm. How are you attempting to stop it for yourself?
Well, like I go to the same school Loretta does, and Loretta said that the kids in school don't hang around with the blacks, hang around with the blacks and the whites. Well, I try and get away from that because a lot of my good friends are blacks, and I find that the blacks are, I don't know, they're more on my level, I guess, and I'd rather sit down with a black person and sit there and talk with them than sit down with a
There used to be a sarcastic remark of some of my best friends are blacks, and to indicate that you really love them. But the fact is that you sound like some of your best friends are really blacks.
Yeah, they are.
And you really enjoy being with them.
Yes, I do.
And what about you, Greg? Do the whites hang around with the whites at your school and the blacks with the blacks?
Well, not really so much. I have a lot of black friends I hang around with, and I have a lot of friends that are, so to speak, integrated. But like Max said, there are a lot of people in my school that have their own groups, which you call groupies. And it's a shame to see because a high school it's put there so everybody learns together and everybody associates with each other instead of having these groups, and it's really sad to see.
From all my studies and research, the key ingredient to the acceptance of others seems to be the acceptance of oneself first and foremost. Panel, do you agree or disagree that this is true insofar as prejudice and race relations is concerned? Jeff, how do you feel about that?
Oh, yes, I agree. I think the more you go out and meet people, I guess they'll find out who you are, and maybe they'll think that maybe not just that particular race is like that, and that.
Now, you were on a committee of other young people that met together with a whole group of people to discuss race relations, didn't you? What'd they come up with?
They came up with that everyone has prejudices and that everyone had to admit it to themselves before they really confess it to themselves, I can say. But I think everyone holds it inside, and before they really admit it to themselves, there's no way of really solving the problem.
Do you have some prejudice towards white people?
No. My family isn't prejudiced, and if I bring somebody white home, my father and my mother would accept it, you know, because she tells me, you know, that prejudice isn't going to get you anywhere. So why should I be prejudiced? Because in the Virgin Islands, no one's prejudiced that much. You know.
Guess who's coming to dinner, Mom? Uh-huh. And in comes the guy, and uh-oh. But you're saying nothing's going to happen.
No.
Nothing's going to happen.
No.
Guess who's coming to dinner? And then you bring a black girl. Would that be all right?
Yeah, it would.
It would be all right?
Yes, it would.
Would you get your head handed to you when you come back later on tonight?
No.
No?
That's the one thing my parents, you know, you tend to feel a little prejudiceness sometimes, but my parents, I have not seen one time where I can say they've shown it.
Really?
Yes.
Fantastic.
So, excuse me, if you were to bring home a black girl, are you telling me that after you were to return home, after taking her home, or after she's gone, that your parents wouldn't ask you, like, are you sure you're doing the right thing?
No.
They wouldn't?
And they wouldn't check your brain and stuff and see whether or not you're sick or...
No, because you know it's happened. All right. I've experienced.
You have experienced that. Tim, could you bring home a black girl? Would that be okay?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure something would be said afterwards, though.
It would be said.
To be honest, yes.
How do you feel about this question of to thine own self be true with respect to this question, Todd? How do you feel about that?
What do you mean by?
I mean, you know, about did you have to accept yourself first?
Oh yeah, I truly agree with that. You do have to accept yourself before you can go accept others as friends. And
Are you at that place right now in your own life?
yeah, if I'm not, I'm pretty close to it.
Yeah?
I think, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Panel, you've just been appointed to the President's Commission to improve race relations throughout the United States. You have an unlimited bank supply of funds. You have an unlimited manpower in order to get them out. Radio and TV are standing by for your press releases. They are ready and willing to help you in any which way they can to remove prejudice from within the United States. What do you do? What are you sending out? What do you do? Leah, what do you do?
Whoa. Okay.
You're on the spot.
Okay. First of all, I think that you've really got to get to the root of the problem, because usually if your parents are prejudiced, then it's probably going to come out in the child, most likely. I think that I'd organize some kind of massive things to get to the primary schools and supply them with enough good information, you know, about races and that there's no physical difference between one person to the next. And hopefully get that point across to them. Just supply them with enough information for them to make a good
Primary
decision.
schools would be informed, and you do a whole bunch of things at the kindergarten, first grade level. Is that what you're saying?
Maybe on up.
And maybe on up. Okay, okay, good. Paula, what are you going to do?
Gosh, I think I would, to be honestly saying, I would tend to work more towards the blacks and help them, because I feel that they've suffered so long with a lot of other groups, but the whites seem to have been on top all the time. So I guess after helping the blacks, I would then go on down to help everybody in general to get us together.
Okay, all right. Todd, what would you do? You've got this immediate money and manpower is all yours. What are you going to do?
Well, first I'd go to the schools, like Leah said, and then I'd try and make sure it's drilled into them enough, the students enough, because if it isn't drilled into them, they can go home and it can rub off. Their parents will be the predominant factor there, and they'll just rub it out.
Okay.
So it's sort of like, even like when they did that show, Blood and War, they showed in the students were constantly being drilled every day in school. So it kind of have to be like that.
Massive brainwashing is what I hear.
Well,
Everybody is good. Everybody is good. Okay. And Max, what would you do?
I don't know, I kind of disagree with that idea of teaching them that, because I mean that's what they've been taught all along. They've been taught that, you know, a different race is dangerous or is different or something. I think if you just combat it that way, you know, you're going to have a limited amount of success. I think what I'd do is use the money to get people together, like, you know, massive busing. You know, I don't mean going to different schools and stuff, but just some way to get people, if someone's in a rural, you know, south area where everybody's white, bring black people in, and not like one black person where it's going to feel you know, in a bad situation, but an equal number, you know, a lot of them, just get them to talk to each other and sit them down and give them a chess set, you know, and say, here, some checkers, have a good time. Just let them get to know each other.
I'd like to use laughter, too. I'd like to use whatever techniques of making people feel light and happy and joyful. What are you going to personally do to eliminate prejudice in your own life? What are you going to personally do? Greg, what are you going to do? I know you don't feel too much of this, but what are you going to do to make it better?
Well, personally, I would go out and just be myself, associate with anybody I felt I mean, there would be no holdbacks against anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I would give anybody an equal
an equal chance to know you?
well, an equal sort of, you know, I wouldn't go up to some person and think, you know, I would think very less of them than someone else. I'd go to each person equally, thinking, you know, I want to be your friend, I want to, you know, instead of, you know, having that unequal balance.
People can get along, as you can see. We've got two books to recommend to you, Roots by Alex Haley and Racism in America by S. Carl Hirsch. Panel, you have been very, very illuminating today. Thank you very much. This is Joe Feinstein for Teen Talk saying we'll see you soon. Take care.